Hello and welcome to Audionaut. Today we are talking about the crazy new update 4.04 for the SP404, which I have right here to show you.
There's a brand new live looping. There's a sound generation tool in there. Lots of other bits and bobs to make this box really pop, as they say. So it's really cool. So check it out. Sunwarper, what's going down, bro?
I think what most people are talking about, or what I've seen, is the live looping, which, yes, the 404 has added live looping. It's based off of, I think, the RC or SP505 or 555, one of the older SP models. But instead of the skip back function that you used to have, let me see if I can just, there we go. So you used to have a skip back function where no matter what you played on the SP, it would record about 40 seconds of it, and you could just hit the mark button and it would go to the skip back where you could copy and slice it. But if you hit mark now after you change a couple settings, you'll see a live looper. So I have a quick video that I'm going to show of using the live looper, which also shows one of the bugs I encountered. So the live looping works. You can set the duration of the live loop. So you set a BPM and then you can do 2 bars, 1 bar, 4 bars, or free, which I think is up to maybe 20 seconds or something. I forget the exact number, but there is a limitation to how long you can loop. But then it just loops, and then you can overdub, and you can add a lot of overdubs. But one issue I found is you can only undo the latest overdub. So you can have it where the click track is only playing through headphone. So like you can do it that way where everything's on click. There's some workarounds and things like that, but that is something to keep in mind. But as we talked about in the last little 108, the episode that doesn't exist anymore, it's kind of interesting in that way because it gives you a limitation you have to kind of work with. Like if you're trying to build songs with the live looper, how are you going to do it where you can take things out or build things up? So Curtis, let's play that video and show the track that I made. This was my first experiment with it. That last little bit was the thing I wanted to emphasize, is that it does that whole thing that everyone was raving about Chompy for, where you can adjust the play rate live, so you can speed it up or speed it down, but it keeps the same tempo. And that is incredible to me because you can export any sounds you make on the live looper. You can put it to a pad. Now you can't get individual overdubs and all that. It all comes as one, but you can do some really interesting things in terms of sound design with the live looper in that way, where like I recorded sounds from OctaveCat from Cherry Audio from my DAW into the live looper and then dropped the pitch and then just exported it and then built a song off of that. So there's some really interesting ideas you can do there. Curtis, anything you want to say before we move to other segments of it?
How have you found, as you said, you could only undo, so to speak, one step. And now you've had a bit of time to process that and use it and utilize it. Do you find it to be a decent limitation? Is it something that you'd rather they didn't have?
I mean, I wish you could kind of get like like the RC505, where you could have like a couple different slots that you could like, okay, this is overdub 1, this is overdub 2, this is overdub 3. But just the fact that there is live looping on the SP, at least even with that limitation of being able just to only mute the one thing, you can get a little creative though, like maybe record the drums first, or instead of the drums first, record your main synth part and then record the drums, and then you can mute those and then start recording the bass and all that type of stuff. So there's ways you can work around it, but it is a limitation that's there. I've been using the live looper more for the ideation phase, like creating ideas, and then I'll try to either export that or rebuild it or something like that, in the pattern sequencer or things like that. But honestly, it's just a great way to just kind of get in the flow, and then whatever you record is just there and it's baked in and you just have to deal with it. It's a nice exercise in imperfection and all that type of stuff. So I like it in that regard. I do wish it had like multi overdub and you could mute them and things like that. We might see that. I mean, they keep updating this. It's who knows.
Yeah, for sure. It's as Asef Stroke, those who invest in the SP404 was smart, and it does seem to be that it is slowly evolving into not a completely different piece of hardware from once it came, but the features, what you can do with it, are just ever expanding. And I don't feel like there seems to be any limitations to that in that regard.
Well, that's the thing. It keeps growing, right? And now it's not just a sampler. And we'll go to the sound generator in a second, but I just want to add those clicks and pops that you heard, or may have heard, in the live looping segment when I showed it. That was a bug I encountered. Others have gotten it. And I saw on Reddit someone said, oh, you could reformat the SD card and that can help. So I did that. I actually got a new SD card and did that. It worked for one overdub, that I overdubbed it again, and it started those clicks and pops again. So I figured out, if you do a system data reset, which is if you go to shift, and I believe it's shift 13. Yeah, go to shift 13 on the thing and then go to data. And it's not factory reset, it's a system data reset. You'll lose all of your effects settings. So all of the effects will still be there and stuff. You won't lose any of your pads, but you'll lose the color presets for your pads. You'll lose all of the effects settings, all things you can get back, but you will also lose the bus 3 and 4 parameters you've made, like all of my mastering chain for the SP gone. So I had to redo that with like cassette sim compressor. So nothing too bad. You don't lose what you've recorded and things, but that did solve it, doing the system data reset. So if anybody has that issue, that's what you can do. I'll get to some chat in a minute. There's a lot of chat. Keep posting if you've got questions about the SP or anything like that, or if you're using the SP, let us know what your take on it is. But I wanted to add, so we'll go to sound generator, because this to me was the big addition. I've seen a lot of coverage about the live looper, but not as much as I would think do for the sound generator. But all of the drums besides the kick in that demo I showed are from sound generator, using the noise oscillators that it has. I just did some parameter tweaks and then added effects and things like that. So what I get so excited about sound generator is SP is now completely standalone. If you want it to, you can create your synths, you can create the pads, you can create all that. So to get to sound generator, you just hit shift record setting. There's a lot of very strange button prompts that you have to do to navigate the SP, so it takes a little while to get the hang of. Let me just move over here and show, if I can just do shift record setting right here, you can see it goes to this, and this is the sound generator. It's got as default, I don't know if you can see it, but a sine type, and then you can change the pitch and level, and then if you hold shift, you can do the balance and the pad length. You can change what scale it's doing. You can change what the tonic is. So if you don't want it to be C, you can do, C sharp, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot you can do. You can go up and down the octave, but when you're using it as sound generator, it's monophonic. And if you just play it, it has just this open filter, no filter on it. So I think that's part of why it's not getting as much due as I think it deserves, because just on first glance, it seems very simple, like, oh, this really just raw sounding waveform. But if you export it or just use effects on the sound generator, you can add a filter on bus 1, something on bus 2, like a delay, and you can create a synthesizer. And then if you export the track or export the sound into a pad, you can get it to be chromatic, and then you get envelopes like attack, release and things like that. So Curtis, do you mind showing that second video, that little 16-second one? This is using Sound Generator as it is, not exporting it, which I did in a live looper, but just to show what you can get with the effects on it.
Let's go for it.
So that was a filter on bus 1, and I had an LFO on the frequency, so it was moving up and down, I think at a 1 measure, just going up and down with a low depth. So it's just kind of creating a little momentum. And then I had Kodama, which is a resonating delay on bus 2. So it was kind of adding this very interesting undertone and things like that. But what I really like is if you export the sound you make, add the effects back on or resample and do some stuff, you can just create a pad, because you can get polyphony that way. So that's how I get the polyphony. So yeah, Sound Generator is awesome. I have a whole video tomorrow, like making a full beat with it and going all into all these different ways to make the most out of it. So if you want to see more about Sound Generator, go there. Curtis, there's a lot of chat I want to go through, but do you have anything you want to go over or mention?
I just like the fact that it's becoming ever more its own little box and its own little standalone thing. Again, for not too much money. Like the Push 3 is its own little standalone DAW these days, but it's ridiculously expensive. But for a relatively cheap price, you just have this box which you can carry everywhere and make something from scratch without any kind of idea. And it's pure synthesis in that regard. So I just think that's a really cool feature, and it feels.
Uh-oh. I think I froze. Did I freeze? I think I froze for quite a while there.
I think you did.
Yeah,
you did.
I heard you say, and it feels, and then it just stopped. And I was like, oh boy, that's not good. Oh, I lost you again. You there?
I am there, yeah.
All right. I'm going to see if I switch. I was on Ethernet, but I'm going to oddly try Wi-Fi and see if that works at all. Let me go through some comments and let me know if I go out again. But let's see. We've got Survey Channel in the chat. Is it showing? There it is. Hello, Survey Channel. How are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. He says, we had some nice sun the last couple days. Now it's raining again. We've had some crazy weather here. It was raining, then sunny. Now it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to specify Fahrenheit for our international. It's not 80 Celsius. And MX Drew says the sun is overrated. They also ask, is it better than the KO2? So that's a loaded question. I mean, the KO2 is a lot more limited in some aspects. It really depends on what you're looking for out of a sampler. The SP has longer sample time. You can do different kind of like bit rates and things like that. You can do multiple forms of pattern sequencing, which I think, unless they've updated it, I don't think the KO2 has there's a couple things it's lacking in terms of its sequencer. I'd have to brush up on the KO2 again. But yeah, it's also, I think, only like 6 minutes of sample time, whereas you get 16 minutes per pad on the SP. But if you're looking for something that's even smaller and does a couple different things and just a different workflow, the KO2 is there. So I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but I really like that the SP can kind of offer everything. And now that it has synthesis built in, that kind of changes the game for me completely, because you can just take that and you can do live sounds on top of things and stuff like that. So there's a lot more flexibility now with that. Oh, interesting. Smiling Air says Curtis is dropping out.
Yeah, apparently I'm the drummer. Lars says it as well. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that.
I thought I was the one that's freezing, because that's usually my issue. So all right, way to shake up the game. Let's go. Abby asks, can you back up the SP404 settings and recover? You know, that's a good question. I know you can back up, like I backed up my project and all that. It takes a really long time, but you can back it up onto your SD card, and then you can like import it back in and have everything in terms of pads and recordings and stuff like that. I'm not sure about the settings. I'll have to check into that. That's a good question. I just kind of just did it really quick because I had this issue and I needed to fix it for videos, so I wasn't even thinking. And I mean, it's really not that big of an issue to just reset the effects the biggest bummer was losing like some of the master chain, but I mean, my settings on compressor are 000, 100% volume, and then cassette is 000. It's just the effect that it adds. So it's not that big of a deal, but it is something to mention and note. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else in the chat? I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, Curtis. I think there's a few other things I want to cover, but is there anything you want to go over before we go to the next bit of the update?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Full steam ahead, brother.
Okay, this one, hopefully you can share it, but it's that video just showing, we'll just show a second of it, but Koala and Roland, or I should say Elf Audio and Roland, have teamed up to create integration between the SP404 and Koala. So now you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the piano roll that you can control on the SP, but see it on the iPad or phone that you're using. You can get stem separation on the SP404 because of Koala. So if you have an SP404 and you don't have Koala, it's only a couple of bucks. I think with all the updates to get stem separation and a piano roll, it's like $15 or something. So very cool. It kind of makes it like similar-ish to an MPC in a way. But I use both, and I've used them together before. But this one I haven't tried yet. But this really creates some interesting synergy or synchronicity between the two. I'm going to add this video if you can just play it for a second there, Curtis. But we'll just show. This is from Roland, their update video.
We can now use our SP404 Mark II to control the awesome Koala app. To do this, connect your SP404 Mark II to a device running the Koala app and it will automatically switch to controller mode. In this mode, the SP will now trigger samples within the app by pressing the chosen pad.
Yeah, I love that. And there's a whole lot more to it. So if you want us to cover all of the integration there, let us know. We can do a video where I share the screen and show that. I just need some time to wrap my head around all of that because I was going through Live Looper Sound Generator. So I'm kind of doing each one. Lars asks, seems cool, but is it really useful? If you're asking about the Koala and SP integration, it is very much so because the two work really well together and now they can work completely together as like one instrument. So now you get a screen, you get piano roll, so you can see all of the things you're sequencing, you get all of the effects of the SP, all that kind of stuff. So in my opinion, it's very useful because I make beats with the two together. And what I always had to do was just kind of like send whatever I made in Koala, just resample it into the SP. But now they're working together, they're synced. So I can control Koala with the pads. I can change effects and parameters of samples in Koala with hardware. So it's tactile now. And then I can play the pads on this. So I can create a hardware Koala, or I can like add things to the SP in terms of piano roll, stem separation, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, for me, it's massive. I just haven't had a chance. It's such a big thing that I want to give it its due. So this was basically like multiple updates put together in one. You get the synthesizer that they added, you get a live looper, you get Koala integration. And one other thing about the Koala integration is just the fact that two companies have teamed up together to make this, like to actually work together to do this, which I think is an even bigger thing. Just the fact that two completely different companies that, I mean, are kind of competition in a sense. I mean, different price points and all that, but samplers are like, hey, we can team up and make what people are using together. Like we can make it work together for the consumer, for the user, and make something really cool. So I really like that fact. And it looks like Asaph Stripe agrees. Yeah, I dig that integration with Koala. Before we go to the next segment, Curtis, there's just a couple quick fire updates I want to add. They added a groove function, which adds this sort of like it glitches up audio, but they say for drums you can add a sort of like swing to samples. Really interesting. I haven't had much chance to mess with it, but if you check out, I'll put a link to the video that Roland put out where they show everything. I mean, it's like a 40-minute video of like all the things they've added. Another big one that they added is preset measures for sampling. So you used to have to try to time hitting the stop button so that you were on time and that it fit a measure, but now they have pre-measures so that you can say, hey, I just want to record 4 bars or 2 bars, and it starts the recording, and then at the 2 bar or 4 bar of the BPM you set, it stops. So you don't have to stop it. So you can actually get things on time without having to try and do chopping and slicing afterwards. They added a level meter, which, I mean, I just think that's cool that you can now see what level of volume you're putting into it when you're sampling and things like that. Multi-pad export, pattern chain export. They added a whole new thing with TR rec mode, a microscope thing. There's tons of stuff. So if you want us to cover all of those smaller functions and features, let us know. But I just wanted to mention they're there. And this update is free for any 404 Mark II user. So lots that they've added there.